Hello and welcome to Arsenal Nation Live here at the Emirates Stadium ahead of our huge match against Manchester United. I'm absolutely buzzing for this game. Can I tell you that right now? And buzzing with me here in the studio, I'm pleased to say, joining us once again. It's not been on for a little while. Comedian and host of the Football Ramble podcast, Jim Campbell's here. And alongside Jim, our resident football guru and former gunner, Adrian Clark. Welcome, guys.
All right.
Lovely to have you back on. Right, we're going to kickstart with something that I'm loving on social media at the moment, and you should be too. If you're not already following Arsenal Simpsons GIF, then you need to do so, because I think they've summed up how both sets of fans will be feeling ahead of kick-off this evening. Have a look at this. Next up, Man United against Arsenal. I mean, which one are we? We Bart or Lisa?
I feel like where Lisa is the away side, right? That's where my mind immediately goes.
I mean, how are you both feeling right now ahead of the game? Jim, you first.
I am a little bit trepidatious, but at the same time, I feel like there's almost nothing to lose at this point, because we've frustrated ourselves in this fixture so many times. You feel like since Alex Ferguson left, it feels like United have been on the ropes for about 6 years, and it feels like now is a really good opportunity to get a good win here and lay down a marker. But that hasn't happened for various reasons. So actually, I feel quite relaxed about it, because if it doesn't work out, it's something we're kind of used to. And I wonder if that might actually work to our favour today.
It's gone on so long, hasn't it? This wait for an away win at one of our top 6 rivals. Is it 2015?
Too long.
It's just ridiculous, really.
Yeah.
And you look at Man United and you think they're so average. They're so average. We can destroy them, particularly on the break tonight. And that is a possibility. It could all click and it could happen for us. But recent history suggests, look, don't get too carried away ahead of kick-off. But you never know.
Well, I want us to put that hoodoo to bed today, and it's a lovely opportunity to do so. This Manchester United team are on the ropes, so hopefully we'll go up there and give them a game. Right, you can see the team is out. It's out there now. You've probably seen it on social media, but if you've not, it's along the side of the screen. And we're going to discuss some of the big stories in the studio right now, starting with no Ceballos. What do you make of that, Jim? Did you want to see Ceballos in the team this evening?
Yeah, I certainly did want to see Ceballos in the team because I think he's somebody who links the midfield and the forward players very, very well. I'm sure Emery's got his reasons for leaving him out, maybe to make us a bit harder to beat and try and win that midfield battle. Perhaps sort of crowd out Paul Pogba should he play, because we're not really sure about that, or certainly haven't been coming into the game. But I think that little bit of creative spark, especially given how vulnerable and sort of almost stodgy Man United look, could be something that's really important to us. But you know, it's an option later on, isn't it?
Is it a nod, I wonder, towards the strategy? Because I think Unai Emery wants us to be a counter-attacking side. If he thought we were going to dominate possession, I think Ceballos plays. Yeah. He keeps the ball, he keeps things ticking over. I think he's maybe expecting to be on the back foot and to then spring forward, which may be the reason. Personally, I would have liked to have had Willock in there. I think Willock is really, really unlucky not to start in this game, not to start every game based on his form. And the reason I say he'd be suited to this game is the way he travels with the ball. Yeah, on the counter-attack, he just surges forward so well. So that's a disappointment. Obviously sad, no Tierney. I am pleased to see Saka get a chance. Yeah. And Callum Chambers absolutely deserves to be in that right-back slot. I think Maitland-Niles has struggled badly in a defensive capacity of late, and Callum Chambers has been awesome.
Well, I commented on the Arsenal Instagram post of Callum Chambers the other night after his sensational performance against Aston Villa, and I called him the English Messi, and loads of Arsenal fans were commenting back to me saying that Messi is the Argentinian Chambers. So we got a player on our hands. Yeah. But you spoke about the break, Adrian, and how that's how you expect Unai Emery to set up in this game. Well, we've got two players who are extremely fast and can play really well on the break in Pepe and Aubameyang. What are you expecting from those guys
I'm super excited about Pepe and Aubameyang in this game. What I think we need to see is a little bit more cohesion between the two of them. In the last two matches, unbelievably, I think they've played as individuals. They've shared a combined 3 passes, which is nowhere near enough, I think we'd all agree. Against Liverpool and Spurs, they were excellent. I think 13 passes they shared. Overall this season, the stats don't lie. 40% of the time, Pepe passes to Aubameyang, it creates a chance. The other way round, 30% from Aubameyang to Pepe. So I want tonight to see these two working in tandem, because together, I think they can really hurt United.
Jim, what about the importance? It seems like we're getting carried away here a little bit, but rightfully so, the importance of Matteo Guendouzi at such a young age in that Arsenal midfield.
He's been an absolute revelation this season, and he's been excellent in every match he's played in. But it seems like around 57, 58 minutes, he becomes the best player in the world. Like, it is absolutely staggering. Like, he just takes games by the scruff of the neck, and I love the way he's geeing up the crowd from the centre of the pitch, and he's just making things happen. He's forcing the issue if he absolutely has to. The penalty against Aston Villa that he won, it was just, he was so determined to get that ball into the net one way or another, and he was just felt doing it. It's like watching a willow tree get chopped down. It's beautiful.
It really was. We're not playing beautiful football at the moment. We're not the most cohesive team in the world. We're not actually the most creative team in the world. And when that happens, you need willpower to come through, and you need someone to just take games by the scruff of the neck. And he's done it more than once, hasn't he, so far this season? I'm loving Guendouzi's work.
Adrian, you mentioned Bukayo Saka as well. Is it nice to see that the youngsters, if they perform well in the fringe games, you know, in the Europa League and the Carabao Cup, that they get given chances?
Totally, yeah, absolutely. It's what the fans want to see. I mean, we all football supporters want to see homegrown products come through. It's exciting. You feel like this is one of us going out there onto the pitch, and he deserves it. He was brilliant against Frankfurt. I feel a bit sorry for Reece Nelson because I don't think he's done a lot wrong. What he hasn't done, I guess, up until the Forest game was score. The end product could maybe have been a bit better from Reece, but Saka has jumped the pecking order. Quite the rivalry, I think, developing between those two. And that's got to be a good thing, right?
Absolutely, that can only be a healthy thing as well. And also, I mean, that puts a bit of pressure on Nicolas Pepe as well. You know, if both of those players are doing well, then perhaps they both start on the side. You never know.
Not so sure. I mean, how much did it cost? 72 million.
Well, he did, but you know, if they're doing the business, there's going to be a bit of pressure. He might think in the back of his mind, well, you know, I've got to earn my place here, because they're fighting each other, and they're two hungry young players coming through. So I'm delighted with the amount of youth that is coming through, and I do feel as well that because there are so many of these players seeming to come through together at the same time, that pressure is being spread among them. So none of them should be feeling it too
It's
intensely.
a good point. It's a really good point, because when you're, you know, I've been in that position, when you're the debutant, you're the new kid, all eyes are on you. But at the moment, it seems like and that's good, and I loved it, and you can either, you know, you live and die by it. It can be too much for some people if you haven't got the right temperament. What's happening is the eyes are being spread. It's like, oh, there's Willett, there's Saka, there's Nelson, there's Smith Rowe. There's a lot of players coming through at once. I agree with you completely. It's taking the pressure off, and I'm loving the fearlessness of these young kids. They don't look nervous. No. They look more than at home.
God, imagine the headlines, eh? Pepe dropped for Saka or Nelson. Can you imagine? The tweets. Oh, I dread to think. Right. Someone we should focus on is Rob Holding, because he's in the squad, he's on the bench, and he was recalled against Nottingham Forest after 10 months out. And we were all so pleased to see Rob Holding back in the red and white of Arsenal, weren't we? And he had a great game, I think it's fair to say as well, didn't he, against Forest?
Yeah, look, it's Nottingham Forest. Let's not get too carried away. Stats were pretty good, as you can see there. We know he can pass out from the back, don't we, Rob Holding? He's pretty cultured, but I think there's a lot more to his game than that. I think before his injury, he was Arsenal's best defender, before he was ruled out for so long. And hopefully Unai Emery can remember that. And once he's fully up to speed, I would expect him to be the first choice central defender.
Well, we've got another tweet to show you, actually, comparing him to a football legend. Have a look at this. Arsenal captain Rob Holding celebrating his goal against Nottingham Forest. Right there, Maldini, of course.
Why not?
I thought it was Cannavaro for the song, wasn't it? Cannavaro, Maldini.
All of them. He's like a combination of all of them, isn't he? A bit of Beckenbauer in there as well.
Joking aside, though, Jim, do you think Rob Holding, when fit, is one of the first names on our team sheet guaranteed?
I think he will be now, because he's in such a strange moment in his career, because he had just established himself as a first-team regular, and we saw from the FA Cup final against Chelsea as well that he is a guy for the big occasion. So that's exactly the sort of character we need. And then that was cut short very quickly. So I feel like his reputation has actually grown in his absence, and I think we probably all need to give him a little bit of time to get up to speed. You know, if any of us had not done our jobs for 9 months or however long it was, it'd take a little bit of time to get back to it. But I think absolutely, because he's showing that leadership, and he seems like he's a pretty fearless and kind of straight talking person, which is what you need in a defence in a league like the Premier League, where the game is played at such a speed.
You don't want laid back people as defenders.
No.
You've got to be on it. You've got to be determined. And when you hear him speak and when you watch him play, you can see he's a fiercely determined player.
Yeah. Jeremy Aliadier always tells me that when he did his first ever training session with the first team, he had Martin Keown and Tony Adams screaming at him, and he didn't know what the hell was going on, because it wasn't like that in the youth team, let me tell you. Right, speaking of Rob Holding, I think we should see his best bits against Nottingham Forest now.
Yeah, look, it was a solid performance, wasn't it? He wasn't overworked. They only had one up top, Nottingham Forest, so it was the perfect match, I think, for him to come back into the fold, Nick. And he didn't put a foot wrong, let's face it. He did what Rob Holding does. Good piece of defending there, staying on his feet. He is a calm presence, and this was the crowning moment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What I loved here, apart from the header, was what it meant to him. Look, this was to make it 3-0, I think, in a Carabao Cup game, and he's absolutely buzzing.
Yeah. Do you think he's the answer to our defensive frailties?
No, I wouldn't pin it all on the centre-halves, to be honest. I think you defend as a team, and in my opinion, our frailties are as much about what's happening in midfield as they are at centre-half. So no, I don't think the return of Rob Holding cures everything. We've got to sort that midfield out first, get that to be a really compact and solid unit, add Rob Holding to the mix, and I think we're suddenly better. Also, flank them with Bellerin and Tierney, two fighters, two winners, two people who like to defend. Suddenly we look a more resilient team.
Well, you just mentioned the person that I was going to link to next, so thanks for that. Rob Holding and Hector Bellerin, of course, it was an emotional night for them both because they made their returns. We can see a couple of tweets from them now. We can see Rob Holding, we made it, been a long journey for us both, filled with hard work and being there for each other. And then Hector Bellerin, from the bike to the gym, to the first runs, and now back on the pitch together. Oh, isn't that lovely, eh? That's what we like to see. But seriously, Adrian, I'll ask you, because you obviously used to play. Do you think it was important for those two to have each other when they were in such a terrible injury layoff?
It's not important, but it's good. It's definitely to the benefit of both of them. When you're injured, it's so lonely. It's honestly, luckily enough, I never had an injury that long. And whenever I was in the treatment room, you're just forgotten. You really are. You're ostracized. You don't really hang out with your mates anymore. Manager just walks past you. There's no real interest because you're of no use to the team. So it's a really lonely place. And to have each other, to have the banter and to G each other up on the dark days, I think was really important.
Jim, I got one for you. With those two, plus Kieran Tierney, how excited and optimistic are you about Arsenal's new-look defence?
Oh, very much so. Just the pace and mobility that both those players are going to bring, as well as I think Hector Bellerin, especially, is such a big character that is going to G the team up generally. He's a real sort of figurehead for this modern Arsenal, and I think as well, you know, we're in a new era, and new faces are what is going to define that. And if we can get, you know, those three players and, you know, and whoever else, perhaps William Saliba next year as well, to sort of all grow together and form a really cohesive defensive unit, which, let's remember, is what Arsenal were known for a long, long time. If we can bring another one of those through, that would be so important to just the fan base here, and like turning up to the Emirates feeling like you know that defence has got your back, you know, and I think if they can all learn to be a unit as one, that will just be invaluable. So few teams have that.
Definitely, I agree with it completely. I was lucky enough to play with the famous Arsenal back four, and they were together, on and off the pitch. Their whole week was defined by a clean sheet. If they didn't get one, they were miserable. It was awful. And they were squabbling and arguing amongst themselves, and there was never too much patting amongst them. Yeah, exactly, because it was always striving to get better. And I get the feeling with these guys, they might be cut from a similar cloth.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, it was great to see Rob and Hector back against Nottingham Forest. Of course, you've been having your say on Twitter as well. We can see a few tweets here. Patrick saying Rob Holding scoring in his return after 9 months out. Hector Bellerin setting one up just minutes after his introduction following 8 months out. Beautiful scenes. Sean, absolutely perfect 90 minutes. So many youngsters coming through. It's unreal. Chambers, Tierney, Bellerin and Holding all look sharp. Massive boost for us. Dream debut for Martinelli as well. And Reece is off the mark. Just heard Spurs lost as well. And here, Leif is basically giving his future-looking Arsenal lineup there. Bellerin, Tierney, Holding, Chambers, Torreira, Ceballos, Saka, Willock, Nelson and Martinelli. Interesting.
Well, we might see that team in the Europa League potentially this season, or the Carabao Cup. Look, if you put that team out at Anfield, if that game goes ahead in the Carabao Cup, I don't think you'd find too many complaints from Gunners fans.
I mean, Martinelli. I feel like we should have a quick mention of Martinelli as well. He had a dream game.
Good finish, wasn't it? There were two good finishes.
Yeah, the header.
What I love about him is he's hungry. You can tell what it means to him. He's really busy, works hard, plays on the shoulder of the defenders. I thought it was very impressive. He's raw. Yeah. He's nowhere near the level of an Aubameyang or a Lacazette. But that doesn't mean he can't be useful to us. And when you consider we've got Eddie Nketiah as well,
to come back,
two young boys, eager to impress, talented, that's quite exciting.
I think it's very easy to forget with Martinelli as well that he's come from the lower leagues in Brazil, so this is such a big step up for him. Yeah. It's a complete change of culture, it's a complete change of level in a different continent, and he looks like he's just embraced that and embraced the change, and he's just here to learn and to enjoy it and to push himself. And that's exactly what we need.
You can see some boys of his age getting overwhelmed by that whole change. Not him. He looks like he's loving it.
He just looks like a bullish centre forward. That's what I like about him. You know, a bit rugged and stuff as well, which is nice.
Looks strong.
Who's exciting you out of our youngsters at the minute? Is there one youngster that you can pick out, or a couple that you can pick out?
I would go back to the point about how they're all easing the pressure on each other and how great that is. But I think Saka, from the last few games, I've been really, really impressed by, particularly in the Europa League. He started off and he had a couple of runs where he and Aubameyang weren't quite on the same page, but he fixed that really quickly, and I was impressed by that. He didn't get in his head about it. He saw it was wrong, he corrected it, and then he was almost unplayable in the sort of latter part of that game. So.
Jim, not Jim, Adrian, we've already spoke to you, Jim. We'll come back to you, though, I promise. Adrian, do you share Jim's excitement of Bukayo Saka, or is there someone else who excites you?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think they're all really good players and they've all got potential to develop into regulars. History tells you they won't all make it in terms of having longevity here, but they've got the potential to. The one that stands out for me is Willock. I wasn't a massive fan, I've got to confess, a couple of years ago when he played slightly deeper. I just thought he might not be quite good enough for Arsenal, but the improvement has been huge. And physically, it's been a game changer. I don't know what's happened, I don't know if he got taller or not, but he's striding with the ball so much quicker, so much more purposely than he was before. I think he's going to be a huge asset this season, not just in the cup competitions, but in the Premier League as well.
Well, it was an emphatic victory over Nottingham Forest. I think we should have a look at our goals, each of them, and relive them. Oh, look at that header.
Cross of the season, though? I mean, that's got to be up there, hasn't it?
Volleyed cross.
Look at that. Yeah. Do you know, I didn't even realise it went in. You know, one of them ones where you're watching it, you're like, did it? And it did. That was nice.
I love that he's had the presence of mind to header that into the ground there. He knows exactly what he's doing. And from so long out, that is sharp.
Yeah, it just got better and better. This was all about Bellerin setting up Willock, wasn't it? Just on the pitch. Plays with his head up. Hector Bellerin knows exactly where his teammate is. And this was Reece Nelson, which was a great moment for him. I think a weight off his shoulders.
Yeah. Chambers again.
Yeah, left back. Yeah, he can do everything, can't he?
Told you, he's the English Messi, guys. You heard it here first.
And yeah, this was a cheeky little deflection, but look, you can't take anything away from Martinelli. Very positive.
Would you guys, both of you can come in on this, would you stick with the youngsters for the trip to Anfield, or would you look to switch it up now that the level of the opposition is definitely a step up?
I think I would sort of go somewhere in between. Yeah. You know, have a little bit of experience in there. Certainly have an experienced bench. But I think the whole point of a competition like the Carabao Cup for a team like Arsenal, with respect to the competition, is that this is a really good opportunity to see what those youngsters can do, especially in a pressure cooker environment like Anfield.
Yeah, I think if we were playing City would put out their first team because they just always seem to, in the cup competitions, they go very, very strong. I don't think Liverpool will. I think they'll mix and match, and therefore I think Unai Emery will hedge his bets and go, I think we can get away with a mix and match side as well. What I would stress is that I would want Aubameyang, I want Lacazette, I want everyone that's fit and available to be involved in that squad if things aren't going well, to bring them on.
What about Reece Nelson then? Because you kind of touched on it a minute ago, AD, that, you know, Saka, or was it you, Jim? One of you mentioned it, Jim. Saka's kind of come out of nowhere and is almost, not eclipsed Reece Nelson. I don't want to make it sound like they...
Well, he has, he's picked for tonight.
Yeah, but it sounds, I mean, it just sounds harsh, doesn't it? Like, eclipsed
Football's harsh.
He was the guy who went on loan last season and the person that everyone was excited to see. And now all of a sudden, Saka has just come in and stepped in. So just a word on Reece Nelson. Do you think that hit him hard?
I don't think so, because I think it's worth noting as well that Reece Nelson's best mate is Jadon Sancho. So he'll have that competition with his mate, and he'll be used to it, and he's clearly very, very hungry to succeed at Arsenal. So I think he'll probably use that as sort of fuel in his engine, really.
In every age group, from the under-9s up to the first team, you've always got someone younger than you that's trying to take your place. Yeah. Always. You're just used to it. You grow up that way. It's the same situation just at first team level here. You've got to use it to bring more out of yourself, and he won't be worried about it. He'll hopefully realise he has to do better to get above his buddy.
Tell you, it's like that in this presenting lark as well, guys. There's always someone younger trying to take your spot, let me tell you that. Right, thanks for the minute. You guys will be back with me here at the Emirates Stadium just before kick-off. We'll have another chat. We've still got loads to go through, including having a closer look at our rivals this evening, Manchester United. But the players at Old Trafford are out warming up, so we're going to leave you with those pictures. Enjoy.
Good evening and welcome to Old Trafford. Welcome to the Theatre of Dreams. This is the home of the world's greatest football club, the home of Manchester United. As always, welcome to our visitors' Arsenal this evening. The old team went on number 1, number 5, Socrates, number 11, Christian Miller, number 14, number 19, Piers Miller, number 21, Alan Jones, number 23, Kevin Louise, number 21, Tyrell Burrows, number 41, Sam Cosmos, number 34, Captain Barry Chapman, number 77, Kyle Saka, 62, Arsenal, number 26, Emiliano Martinez, number 8, Hamid Abbas, number 15, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, 16, Rob Holding, number 24, Reece Nelson, number 28, Joe Gordon, number 35, Gabriel Martinelli. Old Trafford, Manchester United line up this evening. In goal, number 1, Gabriel. Number 2, Victor Lindelof. Number 5, Harry Maguire. Number 6, Paul Pogba. Number 10, Marcus Rashford. Number 14, Jesse Lingard. Number 15, Andreas Pereira. Number 18, the captain, Ashley Young. Number 21, Daniel James. Number 38, Axel Tuanzebe. Number 39, Scott McTominay. And the Suns for United, number 22, Sergio Romero. Number 8, Juan Mata. Number 16, Marcus Rojo. Number 17, Fleck. Number 26, Mason Greenwood. Number 31, Nemanja Matic. And number 53, Brandon Williams. And a big welcome to our mascots this evening. I hope they have a great evening and we wish them all the very best. And once again, welcome to the Theatre of Dreams. South Wales is 12,000 miles away. They play for a girls' team, and they are called the Busby Babes. So a big welcome to each and every one of them. And of course, they're managed Dan Scott, and they're all here this evening. So we wish them all the very best of the whole Scott family and the warm greetings. And also, we want to welcome some very special friends of ours tonight. We've got Arfan Ahmed is here tonight with some very special friends. And of course, I want to say hello to Tommy Allen and also Michael Keegan is here tonight. All the very best indeed to Michael Keegan. He's here to celebrate with the Reds, is Michael. He's got a big smile like a Cheshire cat. And he's here with the number one son-in-law, Mr. Mark White. So we wish them all the very best indeed. And we hope that they enjoy the experience. Have a great time, Michael, and of course Mark. Enjoy the experience that is the Theatre of Dreams. Thank you. Can we say especially welcome to Terry McCann, celebrating his 70th birthday, all the very best of you to UTI, and also to Sarah Dutton, celebrating her 50th birthday as well. Can't forget good old friend Mark Murphy, celebrating his 60th birthday here at Old Trafford, and what else going on here tonight. Just looking at some of the TV information, Manchester United beat Tottenham Tuesday the 3rd of December. That is 8 o'clock kickoff. Official members will apply from 8 a.m. on Friday sets of good numbers qualifying season tickets to apply between Friday the 4th of October and Wednesday the 9th. And just looking ahead as well, tickets are available on the 90 versus FA parties. That's on the way to Europa League. That's Thursday, November the 7th, and that's at 8 o'clock kickoff. So again, do have a look on the website, check out all the club and ticket information. And just by the way, welcome to our guest from Casiero del Diablo, celebrating 10 years of this legendary partnership. So once again, a fabulous weekend at my all, and also welcome to all our guests from Casiero del Diablo. Thank you, William.
Your attention please, this is an important safety announcement. Please do not leave bags unattended, and unattended bags will be removed.
Once again, thank you and a warm welcome to the Stage of Dreams. And of course, Dave, this weekend you're married. Congratulations, all the very best indeed to all our happy Manchester United couples. And in particular, we have a couple here tonight as part of our honeymoon celebrations. I want to say congratulations to Steve and Sarah Nichols. All the very best indeed from Manchester United family.
Welcome back then. I hope you enjoyed the pictures of the warm-up there and the team looking ready to go to face Manchester United, which we'll have commentary of for you right here on Arsenal Nation Live shortly. But Jim Campbell and Adrian Clark are still with me here at the Emirates Stadium, and it is time for one of my favourite parts of the show. In case you missed it, which is basically exactly what it says on the tin, stuff you might have missed in the world of football. Now, first up, we're going to start with this, a game with 8 red cards. Now, you'd expect the game to be on the brink of abandonment, but that wasn't the case in Yeovil's win over Bromley. Have a look at this tweet here. We can see the referee has no joke, just sent off one of our ball boys, then 1 minute later, he's dismissed all of them. I mean, have you guys ever seen anything as crazy as that in a game before?
No. There was that time that didn't Eden Hazard get a ball boy in a headlock or something at one point? But there was also, I mean, what's the logic behind that? Presumably they were time wasting, but surely the players having to go and get the ball themselves is going to take up just as much time.
Yeah, I interviewed the Bromley manager, the opposition manager.
No way.
Yeah, the next day. And I said, was it your fault? Did you have a go at the ball boys? And it was nothing to do with me. But the referee obviously sensed they were time wasting. He had to go and get the ball off them because, of course, they had the ball. So not ideal.
Well,
funny though.
Bromley lost as well, didn't they? I think
Yeah, they
3-1.
did, yeah.
So, it all worked out for Yeovil in the end in the Ball Boys. Next, how about this for a bit of 4D chess then? Because shock defeat for Tottenham. We can see here, actually, I'll piece all the bits together. So there's a tweet here saying, you're telling me that we signed Cohen Bramall from non-league, then sell him to Colchester United for him to knock Spurs out of the cup. Arsene Wenger has done it again. Bit of vision from our old boss there, you think?
Yeah, we're all just pawns in a giant game of chess, aren't we? Only Arsene seems to know. Still knows.
Chuff for Cohen Bramall, wasn't it funny?
Yeah.
I mean, it was what a perfect night. Thrash Nottingham Forest and Spurs go out at the same time.
Also, every Spurs player that took a penalty started in the Champions League final, or appeared in it at least.
Well, I was just about to say, because Spurs didn't put out... It wasn't like a terrible side that Spurs put out, Well, within reason, guys. you know what I mean. Right, last one for this week then, and we can see it now. It's a new viral sensation that's floating around, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. With a new one, the Matrix Challenge. It's even got it in slow motion. Look at that.
It's impressive. Let's confess, we tried this, didn't we?
We had a go at this in
the
car park.
Yeah, and
you two were awful.
We were truly awful. Nick, you're outstanding as you always are. But no, it's like I just can't bend my back anywhere near that far. I mean,
I can't slow down time like that. That's the only way I can see it that's even possible.
He can do anything, can't he, Zlatan? So, fair play.
And talk about himself in the third person as well. I mean, who doesn't love that? Nick Bright does love that. Right, back to matters at hand then. Take a look at this weekend's results in the Premier League. We can see here in front of us. I'm going to pick a few out for you. Liverpool continue their perfect start to the season, and Manchester City stay hot on their heels with a win at Everton. So it looks like, guys, that we're going to have a two-way battle at the top again. Can you see anyone else staking a claim, or is it already over?
No. Can anyone in the world see anyone outside of the top two?
It would take a spectacular collapse.
Look, I've sat here in this studio for years, all right, and Arsenal were often genuine title contenders. They really were. And even if you didn't think it, you think, well, they've got a chance. We're definitely in the mix. But no self-respecting Arsenal fan can say we are title contenders. But nor could Chelsea, nor could United, nor could Spurs. City and Liverpool are the two best teams in the world at the moment, way ahead of anyone else in English football, unfortunately.
I feel like it would take either team to get 3 or 4 significant injuries that are going to cost them players over a season, and I just cannot see that happening. And obviously, I hope that doesn't happen as well. But they're just too good, aren't they? It's just they can swat aside even other teams in the top 4, realistically, the top 6 rather, realistically.
These things will change, and our time will come again. But right now, I think we're battling to be third.
Yeah, and I think most of the fans know that, as you say. Right, let's have a look at the Premier League table then, after the weekend's results. As we can see, Liverpool top 21 points, perfect start to the season for them. Manchester City back on 16, which already is looking like a bit of a gap that they're going to have to try and overhaul. Leicester up in third. Do you think, guys, anyone, because I'm looking at Leicester and West Ham there, do you think anyone can break into this top 6, Jim?
I think yes, they can. I think Leicester are more likely than West Ham, but I think Chelsea and Man United as well are pretty vulnerable. I think we were talking about this earlier off camera, but I think Chelsea's lack of squad depth will probably cost them over Christmas in particular. And Leicester are just they're a very well-oiled machine. They've got a good manager in terms of Brendan Rodgers. They're in a nice position in that they're underdogs. So there's not really a lot of pressure on them. I think they've got a good chance of sneaking in, or at least making it a battle.
Yeah, Leicester definitely. In recent years, it's been boring, hasn't it? The top 6 have been way above the rest. Huge points differentials. It won't be the same this year. I think that, I agree. Man United and Chelsea are the most vulnerable. I'd back us to be above Leicester, but Leicester have a sniff.
It's interesting how things can change, though, because it was Wolves last season, and now look where Wolves are this season, so you never know, I guess. Right, I reckon we should start getting pumped for tonight's game, and if you weren't already excited, have a little look at this. Oh, how I would love to see that celebration tonight. That's what I want to see, a bit of Pepe. Right, both of you guys can get involved with this next question then, so feel free to jump in, whichever one of you. How vital is this game for both clubs, with both clubs under similar amounts of pressure?
Well, I think it's vital for Arsenal not to get beaten in this game, because it would then, you'd look at the league table and you say it's a really disappointing start to the season, and the curse of going away to the top 6 rivals again continues. So no, I think that it's important for both teams, clearly. If there's a winner in it, the team that loses will be really hurt by it, I think, psychologically. With all that in mind, I think it's probably going to be a draw.
Yeah, it feels very drawy, doesn't it? I think that said, I think the performance is not as important as the points, but is a big factor here as well, because we've seen Arsenal look a little bit trepidatious at times, and perhaps not looking the most coherent. And this is one of the games where that's important. If you are going to make a tilt at being in the top 3, you need to turn up and know what you're about and impose yourself.
The attitude here has to be, tonight is an opportunity to put on a show, to show that Arsenal are back, that they can be solid, that they can steam forward with this attack that we've got with Pepe and Aubameyang and destroy a big club on their own patch. It hasn't happened for a long, long time, but tonight represents a great opportunity. I'd love to think that the players believe that and they're willing to go out there and deliver it for us now.
I like that. That should be what Unai Emery is saying. This is an opportunity to go out and destroy a big club.
Yeah.
Just pipe our Arsenal Nation Live into the dressing room next time, Unai. You know what I mean?
Really do that.
But this is a rivalry that was massive in the 90s and early noughties as well. We can see a tweet on that now. Just have a look at this. Arsenal and Man United, the ultimate Premier League rivalry. Look at Freddie Ljungberg there. Look at Jaap Stam grabbing. This is, when I think of Arsenal, Manchester United, these are the games that I remember.
They're brilliant. It's the best rivalry in Premier League history, hands down. They just despise one another. Yeah. They were the 2 best teams by miles. The 2 managers, polar opposite characters, but both brilliant in their own ways. The teams were packed with strong characters, feisty characters. It was awesome. It's sad in a way that wasn't able to continue.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think it's lost its spark a little bit?
I think inevitably it has. I think in the pre-Abramovich days of the Premier League, I think actually Arsenal were important in terms of the rest of the league, because we were really the only team threatening Man United's dominance, and it was boring, wasn't it? Man United winning all the time, and I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of them being in this rut that they're in.
Even the pettiness was brilliant. Yeah, there was so much pettiness between the 2 sets of players.
The food fight in one game.
Exactly.
Pizza.
The tackles were flying in. It was like proper old school football. It was also, it has been watered down, and unfortunately this fixture in recent years, it pains me to say this, the standard of football in this fixture has gone down by quite a lot. Hopefully we'll see a bit of an uplift this evening.
Do you think the lack of success has affected the rivalry?
Yeah, of course, yeah, because it used to be the title decider. It used to be, you lose this game or win this game, you're in pole position to win the league. At the moment, you win this game, well, you're in pole position to finish 3rd or 4th. It's not got quite the same ring to it. I firmly believe that Arsenal and Man United will get back to the top of the tree, but it might take a few years, unfortunately. But yeah, I do miss those good old days. I'm
guessing it's kind of like, when Man City play Liverpool now, although the rivalry's not as intense, people getting grabbed round the neck and all the rest of it that we saw in that picture just there, that's the title decider now, isn't it? And that's what Arsenal Man United was back in the day.
And as fans, I'm sure that we miss Arsenal not being involved in that type of contest, absolutely, don't we? So, look, this is a big game tonight, of course, but let's not pretend it's as big as it used to be. Well,
I've already said both teams are in similar situations, but it's not all rosy over at Old Trafford. A lot of the fans are a bit unhappy. We can see some tweets about Manchester United now. Last season, Jose Mourinho was blamed for everything that was wrong at Man United. All the players were supposedly world-class without Jose holding them back. Now there is no Mourinho to blame and nowhere to hide. Suddenly it's clear that these United players are very poor. I've got another one here saying 6 years of poor investment and mismanagement have led us to a point where we are relying on a 17-year-old striker and a midfield that is like Swiss cheese. What a delicious midfield. And the last one, it's one of the most difficult jobs now to get Manchester United back to the glory days. And in my opinion, Ole's doing everything that this club is known for. He's playing the youth, he's promoting young players in, and just that our finishing is poor, and we urgently need a good striker. So Manchester United fans clearly unhappy at the moment. We're in a similar position, I would say, a relatively similar position to Manchester United at the moment in that, they lost Sir Alex Ferguson, we lost Arsene Wenger. Why do you think they've struggled so much after his departure? What is it about him?
Yeah, I don't know. He was ultra successful, wasn't he? He ran the club from top to bottom. And it was just going to be a very difficult job for anyone to follow. I think what's happened since is that they've made some bad choices in terms of their managers. And they've had no style. They've they've gone from one style to another. And do you know what? Something that isn't spoken about probably often enough is that Man United have gone down the route of paying over the odds. They basically just have gone, we're going to pay the biggest salaries out there. And although you might think, our club are going to go out and spend big money on the best players, they haven't thought it through.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really fostered a great team spirit at Old Trafford. You've got players earning too much money, getting too comfortable, playing for managers that haven't been able to galvanise the dressing room. So yeah, lots of problems. But I do think Ole is the right man for now to bring the kids through and to just change the philosophy.
Yeah, I would agree that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the right man for now, because we don't want Man United to be too much of a threat if we're competing with them. So let's hope we get a good win tonight, but not enough that he gets sacked because of it.
Jim, do you think we might have avoided that problem because of our management structure? It's very different to what Man United have.
I think we've avoided that problem partially because of that, and actually perhaps Arsenal have learned the lessons of Man United, because replacing Ferguson wasn't just replacing the manager, as you say. He did so much. So you've got to bring in a team to do that. But also, in Ferguson's last season, they were champions. So in our last season, Arsene Wenger's last season, we were 5th or 6th, wasn't it? So it's a very, very different thing. The bar that you're aiming at isn't as high, and obviously that's a shame, and we would all like that to be different. But I think that a better comparison is probably Bruce Rioch and his season between George Graham and Arsene Wenger. Exactly, yeah. So I think it is slightly different, and I do think we've avoided that, but actually because, as I say, we're not got the same sort of thing to aim at.
We're a work in progress. I don't think we're in as much of a state as Manchester United, but we are a work in progress. Until we have a clear identity in terms of what sort of team we want to be under Unai Emery, I think there will always be these question marks. That's what I want to see between now and the end of the season, us develop a style that we can really identify with.
Right, Adrian, we're moments away from kick-off, but let's get a reason to be optimistic from you.
A reason to feel optimistic is because this is a great opportunity for Arsenal to go and end this away day hoodoo. And we've got Aubameyang and we've got Pepe, and these guys on the counter can inflict damage tonight.
Jim, a reason to be pessimistic?
I would worry that we could potentially get in our own heads, as we've done a lot at Old Trafford. Paul Pogba is going to be back. He's got a point to prove, and I'm worried about Mason Greenwood because he's 17 years old, and that seems like the sort of thing that would happen in this game for him to get a winner or something.
Jim, Adrian, thank you very much. You'll be back with me at half-time here, but right now the players are out at Old Trafford, so we need to get out to our commentary team of Chris Harris and Dan Roebuck. Take it over to you guys.
Well, a typical Manchester welcome awaits Arsenal tonight, with rain cascading down at Old Trafford as two teams emerge from the tunnel away to our left. The pre-game discussion centering on whether this fixture is still relevant in English football. It may well be 11th versus 8th in the Premier League, and featuring two teams that will be involved in the Europa League later this week. But for all the nouveau riche clubs that have dominated the top flight in England over the last